Chapter 2. A Room for the Night. The crumbling road leads me towards the heart of the city, a broken black artery. I don't walk down its centre, of course. There may be eyes watching. Red eyes. I skirt along the side of it. Sometimes I move in and out through empty doorways and window frames, stalk as quietly as I can through the rubble of the interiors, whilst keeping my senses alert, staying frosty. Other times there are large craters in the way, chunks of the road that are just gone. When that happens, I cut across and find smaller parallel roads that mirror the path of the larger one. On the way I pass signs standing untouched in front of the more intact structures. They tell me what the buildings were. They are precise and vague at the same time. I see General Government Administration Building and Shopping Superstore as I walk by. The closer I come to the city centre, the fewer buildings I see still standing, so the fewer signs I see outside. Most of those I do see here simply say, offices. The place I'm eventually drawn to has a sign that says food. It's a single-storied structure. I find a covered spot in some rubble across from it and observe for a while. The exterior shows some signs of the damage that I've come to expect, but it seems to have survived the worst of it. The larger buildings to either side have sheltered it, like parents protecting a child. I look up and see that the roof looks like it's still intact. That was my main concern. The light is fading, and the wind that howls through the shells of the lost civilization around me blows all the time. In the day, it drives the heat, but by night it pushes a bitter cold. It almost killed me in the early days. Now I make sure I'm inside when the sun takes its leave. I can't afford to be hasty, so I take my time. I make a strange choice, but it happens to be my only choice. I put my faith in those untrustworthy eyes. I see that some small chunks of stone are missing from parts of the wall in places, but there are no licks of black anywhere that would indicate a fire has gutted the inside. This is good. It means there may still be food in there for me. That is, as long as nobody else has been here first and emptied everything out. As long as they aren't still in there. So I wait. The sun is almost gone when I decide to leave my hiding place. On my waist sits a heavy belt. It's the same one I've worn these last few months. It holds some of my weapons, among other things. My knife, my scarred and worn best friend, hangs down from it along my left thigh, strapped tight and clipped in place above my knee. In a similar drop-down rig on my right sits my issue sidearm, the slightly bulky rail pistol. I slide it gently out of the holster. I contemplate whether my other firearm, the big tube that I found in the first few days and now have slung over my shoulder next to my pack, may be a better choice if anyone's in there. I've never fired it, but I know what it can do. It's one of the only things here that I do know about. Really know about, I mean. It's just what they told us it would be before all this. And, unlike almost everything else, nothing in my mind has made it change. I decide against using it and leave the cumbersome thing there on the sling that I've created to help me carry it. I've no idea what the sling is made of. It looks like leather, but I don't know. I cross the street quickly and directly. When you've made a decision to do something that may involve fighting in close quarters, it's best to get to it fast and not allow them time to see you coming. In CQB training, they teach you that the key lies in 5 steps. Speed, surprise, and violence of action I can do. Detailed planning, well, that's a luxury I don't ever have anymore, and method of entry is limited to the lone door that I can see at the front. That's where I head, avoiding the many black mounds scattered in the road around me as I make my sprint. When I reach my destination, I press myself against the wall beside the door. Part of me wants to check the rail pistol's double-stack mag again, but I know what it holds. I'm down to 7 rounds of .40 hollows and 4 rounds of FMJ. It should be enough, as long as there aren't more than 2 or 3 of them in there, and as long as they're not well armed, or armoured, or behind anything solid, and as long as they haven't seen me coming. Basically, as long as they don't kill me before I kill them. The hollows would be best if anybody's in there and I catch them by surprise, which I hope to do. so I flick the selector to load them up, and I'm ready. I push the door open quickly and enter, pistol tight to my body and not leading the way. It's dark inside, pitch. I tap my tack light on, and the room is suddenly illuminated. The light goes where I point the pistol, and I scan the place quickly. It's large. It's full of tables with chairs pushed neatly underneath or fallen beside them. I can see all the way to the back. It's empty. I feel an old urge to shout clear, but I don't, of course. Part of me feels a little let down. The adrenaline in my veins is screaming for direction. It wants to be released in a violent way. The larger part of me is relieved. I get to live another day. Is that a good thing? Then I see a door at the back of the large room that I missed on my first scan. I scold myself. Of course there would be another door. Where would they keep and prepare the food that the sign outside had promised me? I head for this new door, skirting the wall of the room as I move, my back to it for safety. When I get there I pull it open, step through, and find myself in another big room. It's as big as it could get, in fact, since most of the roof and a large chunk of the back wall are gone. Twilight filters in. I vaguely wonder how this part took such a hit and yet the front survived untouched. I don't wonder for long though. Better things to worry about. I adjust my tack light to its lowest setting and start my search. I need to be quick. Soon it will be dark, and any light in here will be like a beacon to anything that still lives out there. There is crushed metal everywhere, counters and cutlery and machines and more. It's all no use to me since I can't eat it, and I can't make anything useful out of it. Edibility and utility should be the motto of any post-apocalyptic scavenger. It's certainly mine. So I search through the debris like a pig rooting for truffles. Nothing. Finally I tip a few heavy things over. I lower them down rather than let them fall. After a while I find a few large tins with labels. They say meat. That will do nicely. I take my haul back inside the main room and sit the 3 tins down on the nearest table. The light on my pistol still guides the way. I place my pack beside the tins and search through it quickly. I find the little lamp I was looking for and switch it on, adjusting the brightness so it gives me enough to see the 4 walls. Any more would be a waste of the battery, and I'm not likely to get another one anytime soon. As I switch off the pistol's tack light and holster it, I pull out a little bottle of water. I unscrew the lid and take a quick sip. It tastes good, and I remember that I haven't had a drink since I filled the bottle in a lake on my way into the city this morning. In the back of my mind, I hear my old drill sergeant screaming at me. Hydration, boy! A soldier who doesn't drink up often damages his own capability and endangers his life, and that means he's endangering the lives of everyone in his unit. I don't have a unit left to endanger, but the first points are still valid. I remind myself to drink more often. I've reminded myself of that before. Finally, I take my Prox Alert out of its pouch on my belt, pop the earpiece out of its side, and tuck it into my ear. I take the little dome-like device over to the door I used to enter the building. I check the door itself for any sort of locking mechanism that I can use, but my eyes don't show me one. They rarely do in places like this. Instead, I open it a fraction and check there's still nothing out there. After a few minutes of watching the now dark street, I step out and set up the Prox Alert a little way from the door. It's designed to let me know if anything bigger than a mouse passes within its sensors. I turn it on and head back inside. There's a beeping in my ear. 1 beep every second for 10 seconds. It lets me know that the device is on and how long I've got to clear the 6-meter radius before it activates. I'm back inside long before the beeping stops. Back at my pack, I unstrap the last item I need. My old sleeping bag has saved my life on the cold nights I've spent in its musty embrace. I roll it out in front of the door to the broken back area. I figure that if anyone is coming in, they'll be doing so from the front like I did, and my Prox Alert will let me know about that. Sleeping near the back here makes sense. If I need to bolt and can't take the front way out, I can always take my chances climbing over the broken rear wall. If anyone does decide to come in this way, at least I'll get some kind of heads up when they try and move the door with me lying against it. With the perimeter as secure as I can make it, I decide I'm ready to eat. A tin of meat and a bottle of water isn't much, but it's better than some of the meals I've had recently, and it's a hell of a lot better than nothing, which I've settled for more days than I care to remember. I sit at the table and open the tin with my knife, cutting around the lid and popping it off. Inside are chunks of something that looks like pork and... Of course, when I spear a piece and eat it off the blade, it tastes like pork too. I enjoy it, or at least I think I do. When the tin is empty, I throw it down on the table with a sigh. I finish the water too, and put the empty bottle back into my pack next to the 2 other bottles that are still full. Bedtime. I pack everything away except the lamp and take it with me to the sleeping bag, where I finally turn it off. In the darkness, I put it away too and set the bag down. The long tubular weapon is there beside me, within easy reach. I fumble my way into the sleeping bag, fully clothed and with my pistol loaded just in case. I zip myself in, and unlike the early days of this thing, I find that I fall asleep with no trouble.